Says right on here, Dr. Reinhardt's Handy Hog Holder, patented 1931. This is not a very old one, but we have.
Welcome to the August Snow Lake County. Glad to see you all here. We have a great program today, but before we get going with that, I'd like to talk about if you've missed any of the Snow Lake counties, Peg TV makes DVDs for us, and we have them available. Right now we have 6 in, so you can watch them at home if you've missed the programs. So these are not always available because they go out quite a bit, but those are available for anybody today if they want them. And the Friends of the Library, they provide us with lots of nice things, and today they're providing us with refreshments. And they're a great organization. There's a form back there if you bookmark if you want to join them. They're a great organization. They have bought most of our books this year for us. And there's also newsletters. This one is for September. We also have a few August ones. We have a few programs left in August. And also there is a program evaluation form, and that will let us know if there's something you would like or something you didn't like. It helps us plan what programs we should offer the public. And today we have the Lake County Historical Society here. They're going to talk about their programs and projects. They were established in 1955. Their purpose is preserving and recording Lake County history and promoting knowledge of Lake County history. And today we have Dr. John Parker, the Vice President, here with us, and Phil Smalley, who is on the board for District 4. He's the book sale chairman. So I'll turn it over. I don't know who's going first. Phil is, okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Phil Smoley. I'm a member of the Lake County Historical Society, former president, current District 4 chairman, which is not chairman, but representative for Lakeport. And I just wanted just to describe real briefly just what the Lake County Historical Society is, what they do, and how you could support it or participate in it if you like. Like she said, we've been around since 1955. Basically, just like any historical society, we're here to help preserve what is historical nature in Lake County, interpret it, pass it on to the next generation, kind of build on what we've already learned. We've had a lot of folks over the years that we're living historical figures in the sense that when you think back in 1955 when the organization first got started, some of the older members of the society back then were already in their 80s and 90s. And if you do the math backwards, they were pioneers. So when it first started, they were able to preserve so much of just the actual first people who were coming over here. It was really interesting how the whole thing evolved. And today we have a member who's still active and still drives her car. Ruby Glebe, he's 102 years old, so she's a person who's seen a lot from a historical perspective, and is still has a great memory, is very sharp, so she's been a great resource for us. The Historical Society's evolved a lot over the years. I mean, basically the things we've always done is put out a periodical, a publication called the POMO, which you got a new name. I think after this coming year it's going to become the new Canocti Bulletin, Canocti Gazette. But for the last 50 so years, the POMO Bulletin has been a vehicle of the Lake County Historical Society to get information out about history and stories and events. And as a member, you get that periodical. We have periodic general membership meetings where everybody's invited to come to, where there's speakers, talk about historical events. And those happen 3-4 times a year throughout the county. And if you're curious about things going on, it would be, the website is LakeCountyHistoricalSociety.com. Am I close?
Sounds good to me.
Just type in Lake County Historical Society in Google and put California, because there's more than one Lake County, and it will pop up.
There's one in Florida that keeps popping up.
Yeah, but always put the word California, will get us. But that'll give all the events and things that are going on in the community, in the Lake County Historical Society community. There's a lot of oral history that we've preserved. There's artifacts that we've collected and preserved. And more recently, in the last several years, there's actual locations of historical significance that we've helped develop, maintain, and create a volunteer system. You'll hear more about both those in a moment, but just the names of them are the Eli Stagecoach over in Kelseyville, over by Kids Corner, and then the Gibson. And John will get more involved with those are and what we're doing with those. Membership is an annual thing. It's there's a membership forms over here. I think they only runs, what, $25 a year or something?
15 per individual, 20 for family.
15 for an individual, 20 for a family. And that money just goes right into a fund that helps preserve these things that we're talking about. I personally have always been a fascinated person about history, particularly U.S. history, but world history and just about any kind of history. And so wherever I travel, I just want to find out about that history, that location. So when I came to Lake County, I thought, God, it's kind of boring up there. I mean, you know, you had the Indians and you had the Bloody Island and a few things like that, but besides that, the story kind of ended, so I wasn't that interested. I got involved with this organization, and I started coming across these stories about this person and that person and this event and that event, and how it not only affected and shaped Lake County's history, but how it had how world events affected us and how we affected world events. There's lots of layers there, and I just found my association with this organization a fascinating experience. It really enriched my outlook on things and my historical knowledge and things. So if you have a historical background or you enjoy history in any way, shape, or form, we are a treasure trove of events and people and fascinating things, and there's been drama and treachery and romance and everything that you can imagine in any period of history anywhere in the world has happened right here. And so if you like those things, rather than just reading fiction, read nonfiction, and you can read nonfiction and actually visit the locations in your own backyard of where these things actually happen. It makes it a fascinating experience. And that's what our society tries to enhance and provide to people, get them interested. And of course, we're trying to do outreach to young people, so we have a scholarship program, and we always try to give out money every year for scholarships. We maintain a presence at some events like the fair. Stop by our booth at the fair. We're going to have lots of things there, which he'll go into a few more things about what you can do there. The Pear Festival will have a presence there. And I, as book chairman, manage the books. I was supposed to bring some samples today to show you, but I failed to do that. So, sorry about that. She has them here, but they're in the shelves, and it would take her too long to go fetch them all the way out. So much for that simple solution. But we have about 20-some books that are in our catalog. You can go online and look at them. And they range from just, stories about Lake County. Some of them are legends and stories, and some of them are just really good history. And so there's quite a bit of library information there. If you want to add to your library and learn more about Lake County, go to our website and scan those books. There's some picture books, and they make great gifts too. So if you have some kids or you want to try to teach about Lake County history, take advantage of that resource. And my duty today was just kind of give you a little commercial about who we are and what we do. Did I cover anything or did I miss anything that you think I should throw in for this group of
The
people?
fair, talk about the fair booth that I have.
Well, the fair, we hope, if the fire wraps itself up, because if you're familiar with where the Cal Fire people are headquartered right now, it's at the fairgrounds, so they've pretty much taken it over. Well, they're kind of scaling back at this point, and they think they'll be out first part of this coming week. But with the winds, yesterday you see the warm breeze coming through, God, that probably didn't help things any. So it's still up in the air about whether or not we're going to have a fair as normal, but they're planning it, and assuming everything goes good, we will be there. We'll be in the main Lewis Hall building, along with some other historic-related entities. So when you get there, you not only see the Lake County Historical Society, but you got this entity and this entity and this entity. So you can spend a lot of time there in one little section and learn a lot about different organizations and what they have to offer to preserve Lake County history and learn things. But you can get the books there. You can get to membership forms there. There's an opportunity. We have identify this secret object as a historical tool of some sort that today we have no idea what it is. And you have an opportunity to guess what it is, and if you guess right, you win something. What do we win?
One of our books usually.
Oh, you win one of our books, autographed by John. Right. What do you want? So if you go to the fair, certainly plan a visit to Lewis Hall, stop by our booth there, and we will be at the Pear Festival in a few weeks after that. Any questions about our illustrious organization and its handsome former president? Well, with no other information that I can offer, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. John Parker, who is our vice president, who's going to talk to you more about our locations, what we're doing, and some other events we got going on. All yours, John.
All right. This is it. You're getting a sneak preview. This is going to be the mystery item in the fair booth for the Historical Society. And if you guess what it is, you get to pick out one of our books. It's pretty cool. I am the vice president. I'm also the collections manager for the Historical Society. Every Monday you'll find me upstairs in the Eli Museum cataloging artifacts like that thing. And the first Sunday of every month, you'll find me at the Eli emceeing the Fiddler's Jam. The second Sunday of every month, I'll be staffing the Eli Museum. And the rest of the time, I sleep. We do have some pretty cool stuff coming up, actually. Today, we're here. Oh, yeah.
Where is this mystery item from? Where was it found?
Where was it found? This was donated to the Lake County Historical Society from a person that lives in Upper Lake on an old ranch. How's that?
Something to do with
Not
horseshoes,
going to get any
maybe?
more hints than that. Let's see. Next month is September's coming up on us real quick here, huh? But let's get through this month first. Ruby Glebe, that Phil mentioned, 102 years old, is going to be at the Eli Museum next Saturday for our History Day. She's just going to sit out on the porch from noon till 2 and talk about her life experiences growing up in Lake County, and you can ask her anything you want to ask her. 102 years old, literally she's as sharp as a tack. This lady's amazing.
Wow.
And she'll be driving there herself. And but yeah, we have every month we have a History Day on the porch at the Eli Stage Stop, and we try to bring in people that are knowledgeable about Lake County. Not necessarily just history, it could be geology, it could be anything, you know. It's kind of an informational thing, kind of like the No Lake County program here.
Ask her to tell the story about turning the tractor over on top of her when she was in her 90s.
She's got some amazing, anybody who lives 102 years is gonna have some amazing stuff. Next month, we're helping to raise money for the fire victims. We're having a big blues festival at the Eli. It's an outdoor blues concert from, I think 3 to 6:30 or something. And it's $15 a person, and all the money goes to help the fire victims. The next Historical Society general membership meeting, which is open to the public, is going to be at Anderson Marsh on September 18th, September 18th. And probably have a talk by the Anderson Marsh Interpretive Association directors there. We're going to be at the Pear Festival, which is September 24th, and we usually bring our tractor and our hay wagon and ride in the parade and, you know, make funny faces at everybody. Stuff. It's a lot of fun. The Pear Festival is a lot of fun. If you haven't been to Kelseyville for the Pear Festival, go to Kelseyville, check out the Pear Festival. Free family fun. And the Historical Society, I became involved back in the 70s. And back in 76, 77, 78, we were trying to get people interested in Anderson Marsh and turning Anderson Marsh into a state park. And the Historical Society was 100% behind it and did a lot of lobbying on behalf of getting Anderson Marsh turned into a state park. That's when I joined the Historical Society and became a life member back then. We don't even offer life memberships anymore. So I'm really, I got a lot of good stuff out of that life membership. Whereas the Historical Society needs probably some more money from me. But it's, and it's gone through phases, you know. For a while it was a very active, energetic organization because of the people involved. For a while it became kind of just, you know, let's sit around and drink tea and get well cards to the people that, you know, are in the hospital. So it's gone through different phases, ups and downs, but it's always been steady as far as maintaining that connection with the past, with history, with the people of Lake County. And now we're into a new phase, just in the last few years. We've taken on museum operation. It used to just be a club. We got together, you know, every once in a while and shared stories about history. Now we've got museums, so we're actually able to take that information out to the public. And I'm going to tell you about a couple of the museums. This one here, if I can get the lights off, then I'll go through this. One of these museums down in Middletown used to be the Chauncey Gibson Library. And Chauncey Gibson, back in the 30s, donated a building to Middletown, built it for a library. And it served as a library until just a few years ago when the county built a brand new library in Middletown. And they were wondering what to do with this old building. So the back up. So there's Chauncey Gibson right up there. So we sat around at several meetings at Middletown and we thought, well, what should we do with this building? And there was an art group that wanted to turn it into an art gallery, and there was another group that wanted to turn it into a kind of an after-school place for teenagers to hang out. And we kicked around all different ideas, and finally a museum and cultural center seemed like the best idea. Middletown used to have an active historical society, which had since been gotten defunct. And so so there were a lot of people down there that were still excited about history, and they figured, well, we're too far from Clear Lake to really get involved in the Lake County Historical Society, which is mainly around the lake, you know, but let's get a museum down here, and maybe we can tie the two halves of the county together more. People in Middletown really relate more to Calistoga than they do to the Clear Lake Basin. So, you know, this was an attempt to try to get that connection between the lower part of the lake and the upper part of the lake. And the Historical Society got together with the county Public Affairs Department and worked out a memorandum of agreement to run the facility as a museum, even though it's county property, it remains county property. But the Historical Society entered into an agreement to run it as a museum. Now, and it's been run as a museum since 2013, I think. Well, didn't actually open until a little later, but the Middletown community was real excited about it for a couple of years, and then they were just having a hard time getting enough volunteers to keep it open on a regular basis. A few people were having to do all the work. So just recently, the Gibson Museum, there's discussion about having the county actually staff it. So the county museums are going to be approaching the Board of Supervisors, I think this next month, and requesting funding for a full-time, well, not full-time, but a part-time staff person to keep the Gibson Museum open on a regular basis. The group in Middletown that was running it is still there, and they're going to become the Friends of the Museum organization to help raise funds for the Gibson Museum. And these are just some of the things that they've done down there. When the building had, you know, it's a 1930s building, and it looked like a 1930s building that had very little maintenance over the years. So there was a lot of work that had to be done. Fundraising had to be done to get the funds to do some of that work. And it was basically stripped down and rebuilt. They did a fantastic job turning it into, you know, a really top-notch facility. We even have a special room that's air-conditioned, climate-controlled, to be able to keep documents. You know, you have documents and papers and photographs and stuff like that. They need to be in a climate-controlled room for preservation purposes. Put in a ADA ramp into the museum, and those of you that have been around here for a while probably remember this old fence down in Middletown. Every time I drove through there, I was fascinated by this fence. There's all these tools and stuff all welded together, done by Al Newman. It was in front of his house. This is his house right here. Well, the family sold the house, but they wanted to keep the fence. So the fence was taken off the house and moved over to the coast, where the family had another house, and they just had it in storage over there. And then when we got the Eli Museum, the family wanted that fence to come back to Lake County. So they gave it to the Eli, they gave it to the Historical Society to keep in Lake County. And we had it at the Eli Museum until the Gibson Museum was set up and established. And then we thought, okay, that's the place it really needs to be, back in Middletown. So it's back there. You drive through Middletown, you can still see that fence. It's neat to take school kids there and give them like a little list. Okay, find 5 hammerheads. You know, the first person to find 5, you know, or 3 wrenches, or 5 wagon wheels, or whatever. You know, it's kind of fun. It had a nice fireplace. The fireplace was abandoned and sealed up, and actually that's where the librarian's desk was located, I think, back in there. And the whole thing was cleaned up, opened up, repainted, and redecorated, and kind of takes the building back to what it would have looked like in the 1930s. It's a real gorgeous, gorgeous building. Lake County, the Hardisters, have been incredible, you know, as far as helping to fund the activities there at the Gibson. And then the big grand opening was a blast. Everybody had a good time. My wife and I put together this exhibit on the prehistory of Lake County. I love the open beams and the electroliers. Back in the 1930s, electricity was new enough that you wanted to show everyone that you had electricity. So you showed off your light bulbs proudly. Now we cover them up, you know,
Right.
but back then they were called electroliers, and that was the big thing, you know, you gotta show your friends that you got electricity. So, yeah, and it was a great, first anniversary. They had a huge party at the Twin Pines Event Center, and a lot of demonstrations. Here I am chipping obsidian and demonstrating stone tool making. They have fireside chats there every month. And here's one of the speakers. And then last year, maybe you heard about this, we managed to get some Civil War reenactors to come out, and they had a big fundraising event with Civil War reenactors. In fact, these guys were so excited about the venue that they want to come back next year with their full force. They only brought, I don't know, 40 or 50 people this time. They sometimes can bring 3,000, 2,000. You know? And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
From where? From the Bay Area?
They come from all around the U.S. Yeah, literally. And every one of them has a background, their family history from the Civil War. And you talk to these guys and they say, oh yeah, my great uncle so-and-so and my great-great-grandfather was in the such and such a regiment. And I mean, they know all of that stuff, like just like that. Well, Phil probably knows that stuff too. Yeah, he's shaking his head, yeah. He was there. He's got a pretty good outfit he wears. So, yep, Gibson Museum. If you haven't been there, get there. Recently, and still run by the Historical Society, but soon to be run by the county.
Where is its location?
It's right on Main Street in Middletown, right across from the new library building. Yeah, this is what you'll see when you drive down Main Street. You'll see a little yellow sign that says museum.
On the right side, going over the hill.
Yeah, if you're heading south, it's on the right-hand side. Look for the Newman fence. And we got a couple of neat ore cars out here from I think the Great Western Mine. Yeah. Cool. Questions, comments?
What
Anything?
hours or days are they open?
Good question.
You drive to Middletown and they're closed.
They're online also, and both the Historical Society and the Gibson Museum and the Eli Museum have Facebook pages. Those are Facebook, everybody, Facebook? Mm-hmm. Yes, no, not really. Yeah, my mom just now is on Facebook. But she's such a gossiper, I knew she would love it. You know, I mean, it's like, what do you mean you don't know what's going on in the community, Mom? Let me sign you up for Facebook. Now she's like, incredible. But yeah, if you, on Facebook, it's California's Lake County Historical Society is a Facebook page.
Gibson's open 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday.
Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, 1 to 5.
They have fireside chats. So that's an event you can go to once a month.
Once a month, the fireside chat, yeah.
On a Sunday.
I think it's a, yeah, it's a
It's the
Sunday.
last Sunday of the
Yeah,
month. I
last
Last
think.
Sunday of the
Sunday?
month, the
Yeah,
28th.
last Saturday of the month.
Last
At the
Sunday.
Eli
Saturday.
for our History on the Porch, and then the next day at the Gibson for their fireside chat. Yeah. So yeah, the Gibson has a Facebook page, the Eli has a Facebook page. And I'm gonna talk about the Eli. because that's where I spent all my time, and yeah. And feel free to interrupt and ask questions anytime you feel like it. Is anybody, is there people that have never been to the Eli stage stop? Good, great, okay. Have you ever driven Highway 29 from Lakeport to Lower Lake? Yeah? About halfway between Lakeport and Lower Lake, you come to a place called Kit's Corner. I don't think there's really is there a sign out there that says Kit's Corner, or is it just something we all know?
Used to be on the wagon.
Yeah, there's an old covered wagon there and a couple old tractors out front. It's a gas station.
That's Kids Corner.
That's Kit's Corner. Right. Anyway, that's where Soda Bay Road comes into 29. The other end of Soda Bay Road, not the Lakeport end of Soda Bay Road. And if you turn left on Soda Bay Road there, this is Kit's Corner, and go down that road a little ways, you come to the Eli Stage Stop and Country Museum. But it didn't used to be there. It used to be right here. It's kind of a neat place. This is what it looked like before it was moved. Didn't, just kind of a shack off the side of the road. Oh yeah, some old ranch house, right? And Caltrans, oh, that's not good. Let me take care of that. All right. See if I can figure this out. Caltrans wanted to widen the highway. Actually, they still have plans to widen the highway. Let's see if I can.
2-lane divided.
Yeah, they're gonna do a big, oh, wrong button. Let's try this button. Yeah, that looks good. Picture. Oh, try it again. I don't do this enough to remember how to do anything. Oh, maybe if I do that. Ah! There we go. That's exciting.
All I know about that building was when I first moved up here, I thought, oh, what a cool building. Then it took me, a couple of years later, I drive by, where does the building go?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
This is too much fun. There we go. Picture. That looks good. Nope, I keep pressing the wrong button. Okay. Picture. Yes. Down, 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 down. Yes. Let's try that. Now, how do I do the select? How do I select something here? That? No, that's not doing it, is it? Up. Native. Okay, smoke them if you got them. Let's see. There you go.
you did it.
John, what does the sign say on the building?
On the front?
Yeah, lower left there.
I don't know. Right here.
Trespassing.
Yeah, we've had a lot of time to study it, so.
For sale. I have no idea what it says on there.
Okay, 2005.
Anyway, yeah, they plan on widening Highway 29 between Lower Lake and Kelseyville, and they're gonna make it Caltrans years ago decided the main traveled route through Lake County is gonna be from Lakeport around Kelseyville, Lower Lake, and up, and then back into Highway 20. So this is part of that. It's gonna be 4 lanes all the way. They've got the part done right here in Lakeport, and
It needs it.
it needs it. I'm against any kind of bypassing though. So in 2003, because Caltrans is, you know, using federal funds and all that kind of stuff, you have to record any historic or prehistoric resources before you can disturb them. You have to know where they are and if they're important. So in 2003, they had a historic resource evaluation done of this new highway alignment, and they looked at this building, evaluated it, and decided it was not significant enough to warrant preservation. It's going to be demolished. And it doesn't look like much, you know, I mean, it looks like an old ranch house. So, is it significant? Well, this is what the area looked like in 1855. There was nothing, there was a couple of little trails. A store, a sawmill by where Lower Lake is now, and that's pretty much it. There was nothing in the area in 1855. In 1859, we have a couple moved into the area, Mary and James Jameson. And they moved into this valley and built a house and lived there for 14 years. Probably built it about 1860, 1861, 62. Because of its location, it was a handy spot for horses to be changed. You know, from stagecoaches or wagons, you change your horse. If you're coming from Lower Lake up the hill, you know that really steep grade out of Lower Lake as you're coming towards Lakeport? Imagine what your horse is going to feel like after getting to the top of that grade. You might need a fresh one. So that's what happened there. And in the 1860s, ranchers from all over the lake basin would herd their cattle to the Jameson place, where he had big pens, and they would hold the cattle there, and in a couple of times a year they would have a huge cattle drive over Mount St. Helena to Calistoga. There were no roads. There was just an old trail called the Old Bull Trail that went over St. Helena at that time. So it was kind of a gathering place for the major cattle drives out of Lake County. In 1860, a San Francisco company decided they were going to take Clear Lake water and pipe it down to San Francisco. So they bought a bunch of land around the Lower Lake area and an old sawmill and decided to build a dam to help divert water for their sawmill. And they got permission from the state to build this dam. Unfortunately, the floodgate for the dam was 13 feet higher than Clear Lake's normal water level.
That was good.
And in 1868, after 2 really heavy rain years, the lake flooded all over the place. Farms were flooded, orchards destroyed, malaria, diphtheria. One family lost 7 children because of the floods. So people all around the lake were really upset by this, obviously, and so they brought suit against the company for damages. And even though the local grand jury declared that the dam was a nuisance, when it got to court, the judge said that there was really nothing that they could do to get any kind of compensation for the damage. So, a group of prominent people around the lake decided to take matters into their own hands. And in 1868, 320 men with guns and blankets showed up at the Jameson place to plan the attack. 2 days later, after their plans were completed, a bunch of men rode to Lower Lake. Lower Lake was the county seat at that time. So they rode to Lower Lake. They took into custody the sheriff, the county clerk, the officers. They tied them up. And then later, that was early in the morning, later that day, the rest of the vigilantes followed. They set up 40 armed guards around the dam and the mill. The Upper Lake minister offered a benediction, and everybody began emptying the mill and dismantling the dam. There was no alcohol allowed. Nobody was allowed to get, crazy or anything. And after about a day and a half, they dismantled the dam. And everybody went home.
Huh.
Of course, the company decided to sue, but the jury found that the dam was a nuisance and the people had a right to take it down. So is that building historically significant?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. 1857, we got Benjamin Eli and his wife Elizabeth, and they settle near Winters, California, and over the years they end up with a 5,000 plus acre farm in Winters. They had a lot of children, including Benjamin Jr. and Sarah. And this is what their ranch looked like down in Yolo County. In 1873, James Jameson sold his property, which he called the Lost Springs Ranch, and moved to Kelseyville. He served several terms as a county supervisor. He's buried in the Kelseyville Cemetery. And in 1878, Benjamin Eli Jr. received an official U.S. patent on 120 acres of the Lost Springs Ranch, including the old Jameson place. Well, this is what it looked like in 1877 and 1884. The red dotted line is the Lakeport to Lower Lake Road. The green line over there is the road from Lower Lake to Napa. And this actually, at that time, followed what's the road that the fire was just on?
Clayton Valley,
Uh,
175.
Bruce?
No.
Morgan.
Morgan
Morgan
Valley?
Valley?
No, it'll come to me. Brain freeze. Anyway, Soda Bay Road actually came through, goes up Red Hills Road. That was one of the main roads to the hot springs. And then there was another road. 175 did not come in. This road went and hit where 175 is and went on over to Middletown and ultimately Calistoga. So they happened to buy a place, and Jameson built a place that was right where all these roads all kind of came together. Kind of fortuitous. What was the name of that road? Now it's bugging me.
Where are you trying to go on this road?
To Six Sigma.
Oh, okay.
Spur.
Yeah.
It'll come to me.
The winery.
About the time we all leave. Yeah. What's the road to Six Sigma?
That's Bruce's idea.
Spruce Grove Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Said
Spruce
that,
Grove
yeah.
Road. This road right here followed the Spruce Grove Road. The Spruce Grove Road is this wagon road. And there are a lot of real old historic buildings along there. Yeah,
Why does that red dotted road take such a big dog leg?
all over the place
Oh,
here.
right,
It's following the contours. They didn't want to have to go, now Caltrans can just cut a big swath through a hill.
so is that in place of the
The
grade?
big lower dip right there.
The grade is right here. Goes from here to here.
So what
And
is
this big
that?
dip here is, where the conservation camp is? Yeah, this kind of goes around a hill here where the conservation camp is.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a big hill here that now the highway cuts right through it. And, yeah.
Had to dig out that hill.
Explain again the green and blue trails or whatever near the Eli Stop place
Oh,
back.
over here, yeah, this is actually Soda Bay Road now, and this is Red Hills Road.
Okay.
And then this road no longer exists, but this connected the Lower Lake to Lakeport Road with what's now 175 that goes up to Cobb. Yeah, this was the road to Cobb and the hot spring resorts. So soon this small horse changing station that James Jameson set up became a full service stage stop, post office, a local school. Eli's daughter, Sally Ann, married James McClure, and because Mr. Eli was busy running his 5,000 acre farm down in Winters, he sent his daughter and her new husband up to Lake County to run the town of Eli.
Were there some or many more buildings, outbuildings?
Apparently there were, yeah, apparently they had a store there. The main house was also a post office, and that's where she taught classes to the local farm kids that were around in the area. Yeah. So, is it significant? The community thinks so. So, upon hearing of its potential demise, the community rallied to obtain support for moving this building, led by the Historical Society and a lot of its members. But previous owner actually donated $100,000. The current owner donated 5 acres to put the building on, and the county provided funds to move and restore the stage stuff. So it gets a second life. Well, if you look at that structure, you can tell there was a whole bunch of additions made to it since its original construction in the 1860s. Side, the porch that went around it was covered and built in. The roof was extended, all kinds of stuff. Well, before we could move that building, all of those additions had to be removed. Once they were all removed, then we got down to the original 1860s structure, which was jacked up off of its foundation, put on wheels. Here it is going across Highway 29. And
It didn't follow the highway to the new location?
no,
Just
no, it went across
bushwhacked
the, it went across the wild land, went across the ranch land to the new location. Yeah, which was apparently a lot easier because following the highway, you have to worry about power lines and all kinds of other. They had to deal with the power lines right along the highway. I wasn't here when this happened, but I've got these photos. So then the hard work of restoring it began. I went in and looked around a little bit while this work was going on and noticed the whole thing was put together with square nails. About 1860s square nails. And finally, July 24th, 2011, big opening ceremony. The Historical Society entered into a memorandum of agreement with the county to operate this as a museum. And that's what it looks like today. So life at the museum. By the time I'm done with this, you're all going to want to come over here and run this place. This place is amazing. We hit the ground running. When we first got the museum, we immediately started working on a barn because the Historical Society has lots of rolling stock, lots of wagons and buggies and stuff that need to be protected from the elements. So, so we spent a year and built a barn to house these things, and managed to get a little stagecoach during the process. The inside of the house we quickly furnished and put up some displays. We changed displays in and out during the year, different times of the year. We decorate the house for the seasons and change displays. This is one we had about the Lake County dairies. Right now we've got one about home canning and home kitchen gadgets. This is an 1850s shotgun that was donated to the museum by this lady because her great-grandfather brought it here to Kelseyville on a wagon train from back east in the 1850s. And of course Santa comes every Christmas. That's a lot of fun. So one of the big priorities that we have at the museum is to further the Historical Society's mission, which is to encourage education, preservation, and interpretation of historical and cultural resources. In addition to opening and running the museum on weekends, we try to get special activities going to engage the public in these areas. Whiskey was very popular back in the 1800s. Everyone wanted to belly up to the bar and have a shot of whiskey. You know why it's called a shot of whiskey? because a bullet was worth a certain amount of money. And if you didn't have money, you could put a bullet on the counter and the bartender would give you as much whiskey as that bullet was worth. And that was a shot of whiskey. So we have a whiskey tasting there, and we've done this a couple of years now, and it's really neat. We've got a guy who's a professional who works for one of the big, distributors. And he goes through all the different types of whiskey, and you get to taste all the different things, and with some goodies to munch on and stuff. It's really cool. We do a picnic on the porch, and occasionally one of the stagecoach robbers comes and steals everybody's stuff. Well, yeah, he shows up when the kids are there too. I don't know, this guy. But yeah, once we got kind of the museum organized and operating regularly, the docents were still looking for ways to engage the community. And so now every year we have 120 school kids come out. They have the Lake County Children's Museum does a science camp every year. And the students come out and they go through different stations around the museum and learn different things. Here they're learning how to chuck corn, or here they're learning how to make stone tools from one of the local tribal elders here in Lake County. How about washing your clothes with a washboard? Mm-hmm. Yeah, these kids are just like, well, they love doing this. I mean, they were lining up, oh yeah, I want to do that. The Lake County Rock Hounds came out and brought this bathtub with water, and everybody got a chance to pan for gold. It was kind of neat. And for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I guess, we have a lady from the bird sanctuary come and bring owls and other raptors and kind of demonstrate to the kids these animals. They're just amazing. So every month we get together as a group of volunteers to plan new activities. The museum, basically, because it's a volunteer-run museum, the activities that go on are things that are of the interest of the volunteers. And we like to eat. So we'll have a couple of pizza parties, potluck, stuff like that every year, down in the barn, and socialize. And once a year we pick a docent of the year. They get an award. Last year, a local resident up in Bachelor Valley had a barn he wanted to dismantle, wanted to just to demolish, get it out of the way. Knowing that we needed materials, he donated that to the Eli, and we had a volunteer crew. We went up and spent 2 weeks taking this barn apart and keeping all the materials so we can use these materials to build new things at the Eli. New old things. Mm-hmm. Old new things. Mm-hmm. And of course, we like to eat. A catered lunch during the barn destruction period. Several times a year we dress up and participate in parades around the county. This is the Upper Lake Parade, and the Pear Festival. You'll be able to see us next month at the Pear Festival, probably riding around in this hay wagon. And last year, under the direction of a professional archaeologist, we received permission from the landowner to go out and do archaeology where the original stage stop used to be. So we have a grid system laid out there, and on cool days, we get out and carefully excavate, map, clean, sort, catalog the artifacts. All the materials go back to the museum where they're washed and sorted and get cataloged into our computer database. When we're done with this project, we will have a map showing all the activity areas around the original stage stop, and materials that will tell us what activities were taking place there during different time periods. Everything gets put into a computer database. We have plans for the future. We're constantly working on new things. Right now, we've started work on a blacksmith shop, which is going right in this area here. We've got part of the building constructed already. This is what we hope it'll look like. This is one over in Colma, a blacksmith shop that's run in the state park over there. and a line shaft machine shop. This is a line shaft with wheels on it with belts that operate different machines. That was how things were made back in the 1800s. So we want to put those two things together. We're working with the Lake County Rockhound Group to develop a mining exhibit so that you can actually walk into a mine shaft, and see experience what it was like. So these are all things we have planned for the future. So, you ever hear anybody around Lake County say there's nothing to do? Not true, not true. So if I've shown you anything that sounds like it might be fun, join the Historical Society, sign up to be a volunteer at the Eli Museum, and you don't need any special skills. All you need is an appreciation for Lake County, and we'll put you in charge of something. Or if you don't want to be in charge, you can be a lackey or something. It's your museum, so help us bring it alive for Lake County. This every month we have free monthly events. The museum's open every Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 3. And we get people from all over coming in. Occasionally we'll get a bus come drive in, from someplace. Fiddler's Jam is a lot of fun, the first Sunday of every month. The California Old Time Fiddlers Association, 3 years ago, they were looking for a place to just sit and practice. And one of them came by the museum and saw our new barn. He said, would it be okay if we came once a month and just sat and practiced in your barn? Yeah, sounds like a good idea. So they did. Anywhere from 5 to 20 of them will show up first Sunday of every month, sit in there, and practice. Visitors to the museum heard this music down in the barn. Said, well, that's kind of neat. Let's go down and check that out. We get 100 people the first Sunday of every month now sitting in that barn listening to the Old Time Fiddlers Association practice. It's a blast. Look at this. History on the Porch, the last Saturday of every month at the main house from noon till about 2. We had Harry Lyons talk about the geology of the lake and the green scum that grows on the lake. He's a professional green scum guy. And Florane Schock, she just recently passed away. She was up on the porch talking about history. Mike Salter from Lower Lake. And this next Saturday will be Ruby Glebe, 102 years old. It's a blast. Several times a year we have a marketplace, which coincides with the first Sunday Fiddler's Jam. This stuff is all in the newspaper, so you can check it out and see. So not only can you come for the Fiddler's Jam, you can have tacos and go around and check out the marketplace. But it's a lot of fun. Yeah, the Eli Stage Stop and Country Museum, we need you. It doesn't matter, you don't, like, seriously, you don't have to have any special skills. The docents, we're all volunteers. I think there's about 20 or 30 of us now. And there's a core of 5 or 6 that kind of organize and keep things running. And the rest put in an hour here or there whenever they get a chance. Anything from weed whacking to make sure the weeds don't get too high, to opening up the barn and moving the wagons in and out for the fiddlers jam. Because yeah, we get there just before the fiddlers do. We move all the wagons out, set up the chairs, take them down when they're done. Exhibit displays, we need people that, you know, if you have an interest in something and you can do a display on it, it'd be great. I did one on the dairies of Lake County. Somebody had donated all these milk bottles with the names etched on them or embossed on them from the different dairies around the county, which was a really neat collection. I thought, well, yeah, let's do a display with that. So we've got a lot of lumber industry stuff. That logging was a big thing here in Lake County. We need to do a display on logging and the lumber industry down in the barn. We've got, it's just amazing. We got all kinds of neat stuff that I've been cataloging into the system. And we've got a spoon from the Nazi occupation of France that's got the swastika. Stuff that ended up in Lake County from all over the world. You know, that's part of our combined history here. And it's amazing. It really is. And we have all kinds of ideas for expanding and, you know, opening this thing up to really make it a good kind of country museum. We have we're trying to get the 4-H group interested in coming out and building some pens and actually keeping some of their livestock there. My wife and I have rabbits. We're thinking about letting them loose. No. I grow sorghum. I've got an 1880s sorghum mill that I grind up the sugar cane into juice and boil it down, make sorghum syrup. I think it'd be neat to plant a bunch of sorghum there. You know, back in the 1800s, you didn't go to the store and buy a bag of granulated sugar. If you wanted sugar, you had to make your own. So you raised cane and milled it yourself. In fact, in the 1800s, you could buy a cane mill out of San Francisco and have it delivered and make your own sugar. You just boil down the juice until it gets really thick. Eventually it turns brown and kind of crusty, and you've seen those cone shapes of, you know, hard brown sugar. When they take out the brown part, it becomes granulated white sugar. And the stuff they take out becomes molasses, right? Yeah. Well, if you don't take the molasses out, sugar is naturally a brown color. And it's so much tastier in its original form. Probably better for you, but I don't know, you know. Diabetes, I don't think any sugar is good for you, but anyway. Questions, comments, yeah?
I just want to say, I teach at Kelseyville Elementary, and the 4th graders went on a field trip this past spring, I think it was,
Yeah.
to the Eli
Yeah.
stage, and they had a great time.
Yeah, it's a blast.
It was very well done, and
Yeah.
good experience for the kids.
And we got docents that love that kind of stuff. They enjoy working with the kids, and each of them has their own, you know, little spot of information that they're interested in. Some are interested in the hot springs resort, some are interested in, you know, the mining industries, you know, so it's wherever your interest is, that's where, you know, you'll fit in, and it's just a great camaraderie, I think, you know, when you're running a museum, and it's just, you know, you're doing something outside of yourself for the public. That's kind of gives you a nice feeling of accomplishment. Yeah.
As I ride Lake Transit number 4 bus, I try to look for the old site of the Eli Museum. I know there's a quarry sign there. Is it somewhere near that?
Yeah, towards Lower Lake from the S-Bar S quarry is Soda Bay Road, Kitts Corner and Soda
Right.
Bay Road, Red Hills Road. And you have to actually go north on Soda Bay Road there at that intersection. It's about a quarter of a mile up the road on the left-hand side.
I mean, where it used to be on 29.
Oh, or it used to be, yeah. It was just this side of, yeah, just towards Lower Lake from the SRS quarry. Yeah.
You know where that old barn is on the left-hand side? It's just right across from that. That
Yeah.
barn is right beside the highway.
I'm not sure.
You're going down south, there's a big old barn right there.
There used to be a pond. I don't know if it's still there or not, but it's just east of the pond a little bit.
You can see that from 29.
Yeah, yeah. That whole area, well, the SRS quarry is where the road used to go up over the hill to 175, and it hit 175 at the McIntyre Ranch. And it's neat because we got the old, a lot of the old documents. Henry Malden, the county historian for many years, interviewed old timers for years and years, and he's got thousands of pages of historical notes. We actually know all the people that picked up their mail at the Eli Stage Stop Post Office because he wrote it down in his history notes.
We have the Malden notes here.
Yeah, the Malden notes, yeah, there's a copy here at the museum. Yeah. Over here, I've got forms to join the Historical Society and a form to become a volunteer for the Eli Stage Stop Museum. So come on over, fill them out. You need to be a Historical Society member so that the Historical Society insurance covers you while you're working at the Eli Museum. And any other questions, any comments? No? Yeah? Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.